Literally within the next 2 weeks, I bought 12 HMOs worth 6 million. I didn't pay a penny and I got a £200,000 cash back on completion.
Welcome back, guys. We're back. Today, we actually have a special guest. We've got Emmanuel Ezekiel, who's got over 30 years of experience in property. He's someone that actually came across during Clubhouse in 2021. So we were in lockdown. We had 3 months where we had nothing to do. We came across this app. And myself and Sanjay jumped on it daily. We held some rooms, and some of those rooms that we entered, I heard you speak and we connected on there, and we've been friends ever since. Now, would you like to introduce yourself in terms of, who you are, where you came from, background, and what actually got you into property?
Yeah, happy to do so. Well, thanks for having me first and foremost. As you said, my name is Emmanuel Ezekiel, you were close. I've been in property for over 30 years, and I started off the property journey like a lot of people, inexperienced. Bought my first property when I was 19 for myself, and bought a few properties, buying, flipping them, not really knowing what I'm doing and making quite a lot of money in the process. My first property was 39,500, sold it a year later, 11 months later, for 65,000, bought the next one for 75, sold that for 220,000, bought the next one for 220,000, that got valued over £1 million. So I did it without really knowing what I was doing. The market was going in the right direction for me at the time. And I got into property really when I was coming to the end of my franchise with Shart's Bedrooms. I needed to find another product. I didn't have a pension, starting to get into property and investing that particular way with another franchisee. So gradually going from buy-to-let to refurbishment and then into development.
Now, when did you actually buy that first property for 39,950?
I bought that when I was 19, which will be 1981, I think.
Wow. But looking back, would you say, I wish I actually held on to that, or no regrets?
No regrets. Life is not about regrets. Life is about learning. If I knew more about property then, which I wish I did, I would be in a very different position to where I am today.
Now, I know you've got an interesting background and you've been on many courses, taught people as well. When did you start educating yourself within property?
I really only started educating myself in property in my early 30s. I'd really been in sales for quite some time, so I'd spent a lot of time around education, around learning how to communicate better, to understand how to make my product and my services more attractive to my clients. And as I said, because my franchise with Shart's was coming to an end, I needed to find another alternative. So I bought my first proper investment property, and I didn't know at the time what I was buying. I did it with another partner. It was 2 plots, end of a development for a developer. The last 2, we negotiated the discount, so below market value, which we didn't know what it was at the time. We bought it, used our money, had a mortgage, and we ran out of money. So we knew it was a good investment, but we ran out of money quickly. Then a couple of months later, got some more money from our sales, bought 2 more properties from another developer on the exit. And at that point, we had run out completely of money. So both of us learned or started the education process at that point, learning about money and property in a different way.
So what was the key bit that you wanted to learn, like a strategy with property on how you should be going about it, or how to actually fund it, or how to raise capital?
The one thing I wanted to learn was how to buy property with as little money as possible. I knew a few people that had over 200 properties.
Wow.
And I just wanted to know how the hell were they able to do that in such a short period of time. So I went on a whole journey to learn about property, about finance, leverage, gearing, mortgages, and that was a very successful journey.
Amazing. Now, what was your strategy journey? So you started off with flips?
Well, started off with standard buy-to-let.
Okay.
So when we did the buy-to-lets, then we started going into small refurbishments.
Yep.
And we were buying places in areas that weren't that well known at the time. So Bow, Poplar, Hackney, Islington. We were buying stuff there, and we were buying ex-local authority. In fact, one of my friends, he had a fantastic model, and his model was that he would go to all ex-local authority people that had the right to buy. He would exchange with them at the same time they were exchanging with local authority with the option to purchase further down the line, which he did. And he had about 500 properties using that particular model. So we did something similar but not quite as successful.
Wow. So Bow Hackney, are we looking sort of around the 90s?
We're looking at, late 90s, early 2000s.
It's probably a good time to actually be investing in that area, and it's a lot different in terms of price and probably makeup as well, like the demographics that's there.
Yeah, very different. And you know, if only we had a crystal ball, how many we would have actually kept and retained in that particular area. Yeah,
no, definitely. But you never know how things are going to change. Now, so you went from this. Did you ever venture into HMOs?
Yeah, I went on a training course. At the same time, I had a mortgage business, one of the largest mortgage brokerages. I had 50 brokers, 100 staff, and I went on a property training course. And the trainer said something on the training course that nobody else in the room understood, but I did. Literally, within the next 2 weeks, I bought 12 HMOs worth 6 million. I didn't pay a penny, and I got a £200,000 cash back on completion. You can't do those things anymore, but you could then. There was lots of things that you could do very creatively. And he said it in a way that he didn't even understand what he said, but because I understood finance and underwriting and how you can manipulate paperwork and contract to your advantage, I was able to create all of that. And I found 2 developers, both in Hatfield. One was Bovis Homes, the other one Wimpy. It was end of their plots, end of the stock plots.
Yep.
And I negotiated 6 with each. And it was just an unbelievably fantastic deal.
Oh, definitely. Now, what did the trainer actually say at that point? Are you able to divulge?
I'll divulge slightly because it's you can't do that stuff anymore. And it was to do with the contract price between you and the developer and what things the developer could give you back as an incentive at the time. So the developer used to give stamp duty or part stamp duty. I was able to construct a number of items that the developer could give me by maintaining the price at the full asking price. So on completion, the developer would give me a cash payment at the end, which you can't do now.
No.
And that allowed me to pay for the property, pay for the stamp duty, pay for the deposit, pay for all the internal works, external works, landscaping, and have the cash back at the same time.
That is actually amazing. And this actually changed after the 2008-9 crisis, and obviously a lot of mortgage companies lost a hell of a lot of money during that period. And I know I had friends that were doing exactly that. We were buying some brand new flats, and they'll get 30% cash back, so they're actually up 5% on completion. But it worked out well for them, but it could have gone the opposite way when interest rates actually jumped up.
Well, first and foremost, it was legal. Secondly, if you took a fixed 5-year rate, you're protecting that asset for a period of time. So I knew what the income was going to be, I knew what the cash flow was going to be. And I changed the model from professional HMO to student HMO, and the actual amount that you retain by changing from professional to student in that particular area was quite colossal.
Oh, amazing. Now, the other strategy which we use is the commercial to residential. Have you also gone down this route?
I have done a few commercial to residential. In fact, one just completed as we went to sit down.
Oh, wow.
So the money's actually in the bank on that one. That was a property that I bought in Hendon. If you know Hendon Central, right in the corner, you've got Domino's Pizzas, and you got residential above. That was offices of an accountant. We changed it into a HMO, took the income from 12,500 on the uppers, and the lower part, which is 24,000 to 36,000, that's now producing 104,000 worth of income. So literally just sold that, and I've done a few others like that.
So did you go for full planning to change that to HMO, or did you go to C3 and then change to C4?
We did it under PD, so we're just able to do a straightforward conversion. I tried to get 7 out of there, but the local authority wouldn't let me go for the 7. That would have taken it to a very nice return.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on that deal.
Thank you.
We also had a chat where you're looking to maybe move away a little bit from the UK market. Is that correct?
Well, I wouldn't say move away from the market. I'm exploring other areas, and as a property investor, We have to look at the financial landscape and the political landscape. And as a property investor, a property developer, the landscape, especially for somebody of my age, isn't as attractive as it used to be. I don't feel as welcome within the government and what we do. We do offer quality housing. We offer things that the government don't offer, but yet we're penalised for doing so. So it'd be silly of me and remiss of me not to look at other areas where you can make your money work harder for you with less red tape, less compliance, and treat you as an entrepreneur and a business owner. I don't think we're treated the same way in the UK as a business owner. I could go on my high horse over here if you want me to.
Well, let's say, just for the viewers, because I've got an idea of the points you're going to touch on. What are the points that make you feel less welcome as, let's just say, as a landlord?
I'll give you a few tips. So one at the moment, which I'll be going to tonight, by the way. I've got one of my tenants where I've got an offer on the property. They won't leave. So for me to take them to court is going to take 12 to 18 months, and I have an offer on the table to actually do it. I have another property where the tenant hasn't paid for the last 6 months. I don't know any other business where somebody doesn't pay that you're not allowed to take back what you actually own yourself.
Yeah. Also, when you get possession order, doesn't mean you actually get possession of your property.
Nope.
You know, and you have to basically instruct bailiffs, and the bailiffs can actually take a while to come unless you go to high court sheriffs, and
Correct.
Ends up being an expensive process. And part of the reason for this is the council are going to rehouse them. But they said, well, you need to stay in there until you've got the bailiff's notice. Once you have that, then come to the council's offices and then we'll rehouse you at that point.
It's exactly what they say.
Yeah, and I find the whole process really frustrating. And in the past, we've gone to court to try to evict someone because they owe us a vast amount of rent. And I've been surprised when the judge turns around and says, well, the tenant said he's going to start making payments and make a small contribution of £50 a month to reduce their arrears, which I'll probably be dead by the time they'll pay him. But you can't even get possession on those grounds in some cases. So it is difficult. Now, you said you're looking at other opportunities and you're looking very tanned. Have you had, and I've seen you out in Dubai, so are you able to shed some light on that?
Yeah, I can shed some light. So I've been exploring that marketplace for almost 2 years now, and it is a very different landscape. So as a developer, so if I want to develop in Dubai compared to the UK, let me just explain how it changes. In the UK, as a developer, we put the funds down, we take the risk, and the person buying it pays it at the end. So as a developer, we're going to have to put roughly between 30 and 40% down of all the actual cost. In Dubai, slightly different. So if you have a development, you can sell off plan, and unlike the UK, if I sell off plan to an end user, they'll put 5 or 10% down. They'll then I pay for all the project costs until the end, and they'll get a mortgage at the end and get their 75, 80%, whatever it is, mortgage. In Dubai, if you have something that you're going to sell off plan, if I'm the end user, I'll put 20% down and I'll keep paying stage payments, so the investor pays for my development. So the risk for the developer, even though it goes to escrow, is actually quite small because you can actually leverage against escrow. So I can make my developer's profit without having to put all that money down. So it's a very different landscape as a developer. Also as an investor, because of the stage payments, I can actually take the uplift and make my development profit at the back end. So because it's a rising market still, let's say I buy something that's £100,000 and it's going to increase over the next 2 years by 20%. I'm only putting a very small amount down and I'm getting my 20% upside. So if I look at the return on my capital, it's 50, 60, 70% return on capital. So I'd be silly not to look at that marketplace when those kind of opportunities. There's more opportunities than that, but that's probably as far as I'll go today.
Okay. Is there some strategies that you can actually take from the UK and implement over there? Maybe buy a refurbish, flip?
You can definitely do that in Dubai. The difference with Dubai, it's not as strong when it comes to finance. So you have to be very cash liquid in Dubai. So unlike here where you can actually borrow against purchase price and development, in Dubai typically you can borrow against the building but you have to fund all of the actual developments yourself. But the margins are much, much higher. And if you become a Dubai resident, which you don't have to be to take advantage of it, but if you do have that, you've got the advantage of not paying tax as well. So there's lots of things that I'm looking at, whether I stay here, whether I don't stay here, how important it is, and who I can actually partner with to maximize the return.
Now, Dubai, looking at it from mid-90s to where it is today, is a phenomenal growth. And I don't think many people, apart from obviously the Emiratis, probably envisioned this happening. Now, will there be some lessons for, let's say, the UK government to take from what Dubai has actually done? Because we're seeing a lot of people that are actually from the UK, and I have a lot of friends that have actually emigrated to Dubai and are planning to stay there for the foreseeable future.
I think there's a lot that could be learned from Dubai in many areas. So first and foremost, Dubai have had a 20-year plan. They've now extended that 20-year plan for another 40 years. So they have a plan that they're following through. They're not afraid to adapt or change the plan, but they've been very strategic in understanding that their oil is running out. They want it to be the #1 destination for tourism. That's more or less been achieved. And in terms of attracting the best of the best, in terms of employees, businesses, entrepreneurs, they've made it very attractive to come over because they want to invest. Could the UK government learn from that? I think we're losing 1 millionaire every 45 minutes currently. So could there be something to learn from it? 100%. Why would you want that? It's not just the talent that leaves here. It's everything that they take with them, not just their money, their intellectual property, their work. There's just so much that we lose by not encouraging entrepreneurs to stay here and make it attractive for them.
I was having this debate with Sanjay, and it's quite interesting. You mentioned, obviously Dubai's got a 20-year plan, now they increased it to 40. I think when it comes to the UK government, we have a 5-year plan. And then
lucky.
A new government comes in and they will just change this all completely. And I was speaking to another friend who works in policy. And if you remember HIPs, they were coming in under the Labour government, under Gordon Brown. And then that got scrapped altogether, and we just kept the EPC from the Home Information Pack. And 20 odd years later, we're still complaining that the home buying and selling process is slow. And we've got a Labour government back in, and they're now going to be bringing this HIPs process in. And if you think about the amount of wastage that went with that, we're probably talking hundreds of millions of pounds. So one thing I'm impressed with Dubai is they see something, it doesn't really take them that long to implement.
They have vision. They have vision for their country, they have vision for their people. They want the infrastructure, they're putting in the infrastructure, and it's run as a business. If you look at really the best countries in the world that are doing the best, they're run as business by business people. Singapore, whether you like the politics, whether you don't like the politics, whether you like how much control they have, you have to look at what they've invested and what they've done to those countries and how much they've flourished by having people who are business people in government running it. Who do we have in our current government that's really built anything in business that can advise or understand how business works?
Yeah, that's very true. If we have a look at a business person that's actually running a country, so you've got Donald Trump now, do you think some of the decisions that he's making in terms of business policies and tariffs and stuff is going to have a positive impact that way, do you think?
I think you have to look at the short term, medium term and long term as to what Donald Trump has done and the impact that it's actually done. So if you're in the stock market and you understood what he did, for people that have finances, we're going to make a lot of money on that movement in the stock market. If you're in precious metals like gold and you see the movement in gold at the moment, what that's actually done, will it have a long-term impact? I think Donald Trump is positioning how he wants things to be. I'm not sure he's done everything correctly, as most leaders don't do things, but he's trying to shake things up. And I think one of the things he's trying to do is reduce the interest rate on their borrowing. And if interest rates come down, then it makes a significant difference to how they can afford to repay their debt, which is growing dramatically. And the higher the interest rates are, the longer it is for them to actually get out of that debt.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, you're not just a property person, but you're also a business person as well.
I am.
So would you like to let us know where you are in business and like what other streams of income that you've created?
Yeah, so property for the last 30 years probably been my most stable in terms of wealth creation and reoccurring income. I don't believe there's anything such as passive income, especially in property. But in terms of finance, I'm still very active in finance, helping people restructure either as a FD for them or looking at their portfolio and helping them restructure their current facilities. In fact, I'm doing one at the moment, and one of the guys here at Shawbrook is helping me restructure one of my clients. They bought a yard. They've got £600,000 worth of debt. It was valued at just over £1 million. We've done some work on it. It's now valued at 1.8 million. We're going to refinance at roughly around about 1.3, and he's going to be paying off very expensive bridging finance at 2% per month and reduce that down to 7%. So there's a lot of stuff I do around that, and I also do some business consultancy and some NLP, which we talked about earlier, neurolinguistic program, in terms of helping people get over obstacles.
Now, for anyone that actually follows your Instagram, you're in very good shape, hence I'm all covered up, I'm not showing any chest today. When did that journey start for you, and the reasons for it?
I've always been in pretty good shape from a very young age. Lucky enough to always play outside, football, biking, that sort of stuff. And I was bullied. I was quite small as a kid, I was bullied. So being healthy, fit and strong has always been part of my makeup. So it's been all the way through.
Oh, that's amazing. So, and has that always just been with gym work, or have you been playing some sports?
No, football, boxing, judo, karate, some kickboxing. So physical sports.
One thing I saw from your Instagram profile was, and I didn't know this, was you're actually an award winner. What was the award for?
I've won a couple of awards. So I won an award as Property Development or Project of the Year. I got that from Crowd Property for 2 projects that didn't start off great, but finished off reasonably well. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Which year was that? I may have been at the...
That was 2 years ago, so 2023.
Okay. I used to go to the PIN end of year event, and they used to hand out awards there. That was amazing. And have you won any other awards for some of the business stuff that you're doing, or?
I've won different awards. So the property company I had won multiple awards. We were part of the Millfield Group at the time, which was the umbrella, and we won awards literally every month, every year as the top performing appointed firm within that. So highest turnover, highest sales, the most amount of mortgage sales. I'm very focused around finance and money to help people. And that's when I wrote my first book, The 6 Steps to Financial Freedom. And that's to help people, all people, get out of debt, including their mortgage, without actually having to earn any more money. I'm very passionate about helping become wealthier.
Is that available on Amazon?
It's available on Amazon, as well as my other book, which is Wealth Beyond Money, and that's also on Audible as well.
Is that something that you're really passionate about in terms of writing?
I was passionate on 2 parts. Not necessarily passionate about writing, I was passionate about helping people. So if you can imagine, we had a mortgage business doing thousands of mortgages. And every 2 or 3 years, people will come back to us where we'd already resolved their financial issue. They'd come back with more debt. They'd just replace the debt. And I thought, this is crazy. Nobody's teaching people how to manage their money or their finances. And that was the main reason why I wrote that book. And if you've heard of Brian Tracy and Bill Bartram, who was USA Billionaire Entrepreneur twice of the year, they both endorsed that book because it's really to help people get out of debt. In fact, the average person would save £20,000 to £25,000 worth of interest on their mortgage and clear it anywhere between 3 and 7 years earlier.
Oh, definitely want to read for sure. Now, the other thing I noticed from your social media is you like to relax and enjoy. Hit that reset button. How do you do that?
Well, Sharon and I go to a lot of festivals. We like to dance, we like to party. You probably gathered that my shirt's done up, but it's normally undone. I like the outside. So we do a lot of stuff around sport and being outside and going on holiday.
Oh, perfect. Now, if the viewers want to get in touch with you, what's your best points of contact?
Easiest place is LinkedIn. That's probably the most easy platform for people to actually search and to actually connect with me.
Okay. Amazing, Manuel. Thank you so much for
My
coming.
pleasure.
If you guys enjoyed that video, hit the like button, subscribe, and we hope to see you in the next video.